Montreal, the everyday, and the extraordinary. The Elias Makos Show on CJAD 800.
Trudie Mason sitting in. There came word just in recent hours that the Congregation of Notre Dame has set a path ahead for the eventual sale of the property it owns. The order, the members of it are getting older. They would like to, I guess, get out from under that particular operation for a different kind of life. The property has been in the hands of the Congregation of Notre Dame for more than a century and a half, and it is a complicated situation because the property also hosts Collège Villa Maria, the school. So what would become of the school? We've been seeing back and forth on this question for quite a while now. The word this morning is that there is an agreement in place to give the school an opening to possibly acquire the campus that it sits on. Here to tell us more about this possibility is Suzanne Gouin, Chair of the Board of Villa Maria College. Suzanne, thanks for joining us.
Good morning. Good morning to you, and thank you for the invitation this morning.
Tell us about what the congregation has decided.
So what the congregation has decided is really to put the entire complex for sale because they had been able to relocate some of the nuns that were on the premises. There is a health center for the nuns, the more older nuns on the locations, and they were able to relocate. They'll be able to relocate in 2 years. So this being done, this was the key for the congregation to have an opening to put the site for sale, and that's what the congregation announced yesterday.
What then will the opportunity be for the school?
So the opportunity is twofold. The first one is what the congregation announced yesterday is that their call for tender will include, first of all, the respect of our actual lease till 2030 and prolongation for 2 more years, which is, we can only be very, very thankful for the congregation to have given us this opportunity, because to come up with a new strategy in view of this new situation will take a little bit of time. And this afternoon, the board of directors will meet and will assess all the opportunities that this new situation creates.
I understand there's also a possibility that you may be able to buy the grounds.
At this stage, it will be, too early to say. We have yes, there's an opportunity because we have first right of refusal, so that's the opportunity. At the same time, it was going to have to be at market value, and we do not know what the offer is going to be on the market, and there's a lot of homework that still need to be done by us to evaluate and find out, what could be the actual price, see the capacity that we have at the school to generate more money so that we can maybe a contender in a situation like this. I mean, there's plenty of opportunity, but at this stage, it's a little bit too early for me to say anything because we haven't done any analysis, and it would be very presumptuous for me to say we'll do X, Y, Z when we haven't yet had the time first to meet and then decide the path that we will take.
Given that your lease is protected until 2030 and then there's an obligation to renegotiate for another 2 years, that puts you at 2032. It is a possibility if you are not able to acquire the grounds that you will eventually have to move. The school would have to move.
Well, you know what? That could be a possibility, but right now the most important thing for the students and for the parents is that they know that, the school will be on this location till 2032, which is a great news, fantastic news. And at the same time, I'm sure that we'll look with all the stakeholders to see what's going to be feasible in the future in terms of the location of the school.
Do you think the fact that you've got that guarantee until 2032 will help with enrollment, bringing more students in because there is that guarantee? Listen, you start with us, you're going to be able to graduate with us in that location.
You know what? It's surely something that will help, and I'm sure that the open doors that will occur in September will demonstrate that, because the school has put a lot of effort in terms of the pedagogical project that's going to be unique in Quebec, that's going to be proposed to the students and to the parents. And I think that this will create the envy of many schools in the Montreal community.
How many students do you have right now?
Around 1,800. And
what is the capacity of the school?
I would say close to 2,000.
So potentially you could recruit up to several hundred more students, and that would help financially too if you're considering a bid on the property.
That for sure. I mean, anything that can help, we will try to do. Don't worry about this, and we'll work with the management team to make sure that we put all the right steps in place so that we all feel that we can move forward in the right direction for the school, for the students, and for the community.
You say that you're grateful to the Congregation of Notre Dame for setting up the sale this way to give you the opportunity to maybe acquire the property and to at least guarantee your lease through 2032. Why did it take so long? You would think that the congregation would want the school to continue, that it was, it was in sync with the mandate of the school, with the goal of the school to provide that kind of education. Why did it take so long for the congregation to come up with this?
This is a question that you have to ask to the congregation, not to me.
It was a source of frustration for school, the people behind the school, though, because we heard from them in recent years.
You know what? I wasn't there. I was appointed in March, and since the beginning of March, since I've been appointed, the collaboration with the congregation has been great. We've been working in tandem, not only with the congregation, but also with the direction of the school and the management team at the school. And it's probably the reason why this collaboration is going so well that the congregation has given us this opportunity.
Well, Suzanne, good luck with the open house this fall. And
thank you very much.
And I do hope that the school finds a way forward. Thank you very much for your interview. I appreciate your time.
Thank you. Have a very good day and a good weekend to all your listeners.
Oh, thanks for that as well. Suzanne Gouin, board chair at Villa Maria College.
Hey, I'm Ruby Carr, the host of the podcast Encore. Check out our brand new episodes featuring music from the show that everyone is reheating as we speak, Heated Rivalry. Join me as I go behind the songs that brought Shane and Elia together. I'll tell you the stories of Feist, My Moon, My Man, Wolf Parade's I'll Believe in Anything, and Tattoo's All the Things She Said, and how they all became a part of this global phenomenon. Stream Encore on iHeartRadio, Crave, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Montreal, the everyday and the extraordinary. The Elias Makos Show on CJAD 800.
Trudie sitting in. And yes, we're talking about the tariffs again, the ones announced this week by U.S. President Donald Trump. The number sounds big, 50% tariff on a wide range of goods, some exceptions, but quite broad, actually. When it comes down to hitting hockey sticks, I really felt that was personal, by the way. That felt really personal for the Americans to go after Canadian-made hockey sticks. And there's no exemptions this time for goods compliant with CUSMA, which had been the case in the previous round of tariffs. We want to dive a little bit deeper, though, into just how much money we're talking about, what percentage of Canadian goods are affected. And here with the numbers for us is Robert Kavcic, Director and Senior Economist at BMO Capital Markets. Robert, welcome to CJAD.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Walk us through which industries are hardest hit by this latest round of American tariffs?
So it's a pretty broad selection, almost kind of targeted here. So I probably the easiest way to think about it is what's not on the list, right? What's not on the list is not surprisingly a lot of things that the U.S. needs from Canada. So basic things like oil and energy, fertilizer and potash. The auto industry are effectively not included in this list. And then other areas that are already subject to pretty significant tariffs, whether it's steel and aluminum, forest products, that stuff is all not included here as well. So we're drilling down into things like very targeted consumer goods, things like wine and liquor, and as you mentioned, hockey sticks obviously is the one that got headlines. Various manufactured good and various things like industrial machinery, industrial equipment, plastics, things like that. All in, it ends up being about $20 billion worth in U.S., so call it like $25 to $30 billion Canadian in terms of goods that are actually targeted here.
So that's exports across our border into the U.S. each year?
Yes. So roughly $28 billion of Canadian exports. So that would kind of weigh in, if you look at the overall trade picture, probably about 5% of our goods exports to the U.S. would be covered by that list. So in the aggregate, it's a relatively small, manageable number, but that's not something you want to say to the manufacturer exporter of a particular product that relies on the U.S. market, because for that person specifically or that business specifically, a 50% tariff could eventually completely close off that market for that individual business, right?
And this is in addition to the other tariffs you mentioned earlier, the other ones affecting other industries. So altogether, what percentage, would you happen to know what percentage of Canadian goods are tariffed under the Trump administration at this time?
You're probably getting closer to like 10% or so. So the quirk with this is that the tariffs that are in place right now, the vast majority of them are carved out by USMCA, right? So trade continues under the coverage of the trade agreement that we have. So the better way to think about it, rather than like dollar coverage, would be what's the actual like weighted average tariff that Americans are paying to import from Canada right now. So if we were starting at effectively zero in 2024 going into the trade war, before the announcement this week, that weighted average tariff would have been around 5%. So that accounts for things like steel and aluminum, autos, and it also accounts for the fact that probably 95% of that trade is actually still flowing under USMCA without any tariff. So call it about 5 percentage points. After this week's announcements, if this was going to actually go through, that 5% tariff would effectively kind of rise up to about 7.5%. So in the aggregate, that's probably the better way to look at it. What effective tariff are Americans paying to import the whole basket of Canadian goods? And we've gone from 0 to 5. We might go up to about 7.5.
I saw one analysis that said even though the impact may be, and I'm going to use the term relatively, because as you said, it's not relatively small for the industry, for the companies that are actually hit by this, but relatively small. It would be enough to push Canada into a recession. Would you agree?
On its own, I don't think so. Look, Canada hasn't fallen into recession yet, and given the scope of the trade shock we dealt with through 2025 and into 2026, the economy has slowed down for sure. It's been growing below the speed limit, so to speak, but we haven't fallen into recession. And I think just kind of the again, relatively small and targeted nature of this will certainly impact some businesses. But in the aggregate for the Canadian economy, which coming into, the summer was actually showing signs of accelerating and posting pretty solid growth, I don't think this alone puts us in recession. I think, from this perspective, the bigger issue is not necessarily a high tariff on a really small select list of goods. It's the fact that the U.S. administration is saying, okay, we are going to ignore the trade agreement that we have in place. we're going to slap these tariffs on goods that would otherwise be trading freely under USMCA. So what message does that send to the rest of the economy that is maybe not impacted by this move specifically, but what does that mean for confidence on the existing trade agreement going forward through 26, 27, 2028? Probably not a whole lot of confidence. So again, that probably doesn't put us in recession, but it really kind of bends the growth curve down and causes a lot of businesses to hold back on hiring and hold back on capital investment that they otherwise would make.
And another offshoot, we had a caller last segment talking about this, who is the owner of a small business, who says that he's speaking to people who are moving either all or part of their operations into the U.S. to get around this now. So that's another way Canada's economy could be affected.
Yeah, I would agree. And look, ultimately, if you look at what the U.S. administration is doing, that's their goal, right? They want production held in the U.S. or relocated back to the U.S. That is their goal. And the longer that this kind of cloud overhangs the Canadian economy, the more, like you say, some small businesses will say, look, we're gonna pack up and shift. Or you have investment that maybe would be directed to Canada. Now maybe going to think twice about that if we're going to have to deal with this uncertainty for a couple of years going forward still.
What is your fearless prediction on this score? First of all, there are some people who think that Trump is going to cave on these the way he has caved on some previous tariff announcements. And that's why the prime minister isn't reacting right away, saying, well, we might look at retaliation, but not yet, not until they actually go into effect. But beyond that as well, what is your feeling about how this is going to unfold? Are you able to wade in that direction, or is Trump too much of a wild card to make a prediction?
Well, I mean, it's a huge wild card, of course. I think our assumption here when we forecast the Canadian economy, which is obviously a job we have to do every day, is that it's pretty status quo on trade through probably 2026, 2027, 2028. And by that, I mean, Canada's not going to just arbitrarily sign a trade deal that is not in our favor or that gives major concessions. The flip side is I don't think the U.S. wants to become a lot more hawkish on trade, especially heading into the midterm election. So if I had to bet on this, I would bet that there's probably some give and take behind the scenes and this doesn't actually go through. If it does go through, of course, it's going to be challenged in the courts because we do have a trade agreement. So, unfortunately, I think we're kind of just stuck with this uncertainty and we're stuck with the tariffs that are in place at the sectoral level, probably right through the rest of this administration. And we saw coming into the July 1st USMCA renewal date, there was an opportunity there to strike a new agreement and get things settled. And we didn't do that. We didn't expect that to happen. And so we kind of just carry on with the status quo for the foreseeable future, I think.
Robert Kavcic, thank you very much for your time.
Great. Thanks for having me.
Robert Kavcic is Director, Senior Economist at BMO Capital Markets. We're up against the 10:30 news update as reported by James Foster. And when we come back, well, it will be Judge Trudie presiding over traffic court.
This newscast is brought to you by Supermarché Acavan. Cool off this summer with fresh, sweet watermelon from Supermarché Acavan. Choose from juicy whole watermelons or freshly sliced, ready to enjoy.
Unmistakably Canadian.
It's the music that raised you.
The artists raising the bar.
Hi, this is Brian Adams.
Hey, my name's Brett Emmons. I'm from the Glorious Sons.
Hi, I'm Nelly Furtado.
Made in Canada. The station that champions Canadian music.
Loud, proud, and all yours.
No passports required. Just press play.
Tap into Made in Canada now on iHeartRadio.ca
or the free iHeartRadio app.
As I call traffic court into session, we will be speaking to Avi Levy, the founder of Ticket 911, about a particular case which involved a woman who was dinged for using a hands-free device with her hands. She thought that since she was using the device, she didn't merit a ticket, but the courts have finally decided after an appeal, no, you deserve the ticket. We'll get into the details. We'll also hear your stories about what you felt were unjust traffic tickets. Give us a call, 514-790-0800 to call or text.
Listen wherever, whenever, on your radio. Online at CJAD800.com. On your smart speaker.
Playing CJAD.
Or your phone. Through the iHeartRadio app. Where and when you need us. This is News Talk Radio. CJAD 800.
Unmistakably Canadian.
It's the music that raised you.
The artists raising the bar.
Hi, this is Brian Adams.
Hey, my name's Brett Emmons. I'm from the Glorious Sons.
Hi, I'm Nelly Furtado.
Made in Canada. The station that champions Canadian music.
Loud, proud, and all yours.
No passports required. Just press play.
Tap into Made in Canada now on iHeartRadio.ca
or the free iHeartRadio app.
In the CJAD 800 traffic court system, the participants are represented by two separate yet equally important groups. The CJAD listeners who commit the infractions and Elias Makos, who judges the offenders. These are their stories.
Next thing I knew, the sirens were blaring and he pulled me over and he said, "You ran the red light."
So wondering if I can go contest it, but unfortunately I don't have any evidence.
Lindo, you got bigger issues here.
Police officer pulled me over and said that my registration and license had expired.
Boy.
Said you got to check with SAC Click.
Oh boy.
Yeah, I believe it's my constitutional right not to wear a seatbelt. I don't.
What?
He came out the car and I said, "Guilty, guilty, guilty. Don't give me a lecture, just give me the ticket." And he was laughing.
You better have stopped there, Stephen.
I tried, but I was on ice and snow.
Can you handle the truth?
I could handle it. Go for it.
Jeannie, you shouldn't have parked there. I mean, like, you're on camera. You admitted it on CJAD. You were doing it.
The thing is that the 40 is written so far that you can't even see it.
Cry me a river.
Why did they use this one type of sign?
It doesn't matter. I'm just the CJAD fun radio judge. The real judge is going to throw the book at you.
Traffic Court. Elias Makos considers your case on CJAD 800.
Judge Trudie presiding today over traffic court. Well, we have a call in from Suzanne we're going to get to in just a sec. Suzanne got a ticket for using her horn. We'll get her story in a moment after we speak to Abby Levy, founder of Ticket 911, about this case that's been in the news. Because it is a little bit odd. It made its way all the way up to the appeals court. It has to do with using a hands-free device and whether or not you can touch it with your hands or any other part of your body while you're driving. This has to do with a $300 ticket issued to a woman who was talking to her husband using a hands-free system, but then the phone slipped. So she ended up picking it up. Maybe you should pick up the story, Avi Levy. Does it make sense to you, this court decision?
Yeah, it does make sense because the purpose of a hands-free device is not to use your hands. So I understand that by reflex she picked it up, she was holding the phone, but when the police officer saw her, she was violating the cell phone rules, and that's why she got the ticket.
I thought what was interesting, according to the news coverage, is that she had picked it up, and then even though she was still connected to her onboard hands-free thing in her car, she tucked it under her chin. So technically her hands were free at that moment. After she tucked it under her chin, her hands were free. That's
that was not my understanding. My understanding is she held it at about her chin level, and then the police officer saw her sort of mouth moving and the phone being held right under her mouth and decided to give her a ticket. And, yeah.
Any hope for people who are spotted with cell phones in their hand? In your experience, is there any defense for that?
I mean, there are some explanations that can be given, but the general rule is the phone should be in a mount. You shouldn't be holding the phone. The irony is that you can use your infotainment system that has a 15-inch screen and you can hit buttons and you can do all of that, but you can't do the exact same thing on your phone.
Can you, if it's in a mount, can you dial the phone by hitting a button?
You should not be dialing from the phone. You should be dialing from your car's Apple Play system. Sounds a little weird, but that's sort of the current distinction in the law. So it's really a question of public safety versus overcriminalization. The courts and everybody are trying to, provide safety on the roads by not having people drive in a distracted manner. And then the legislature is trying to sort of strike a balance between everything by not making it too strict, but still implementing certain do's and don'ts that you can or cannot do.
I noted in this particular case, the woman had placed the call before she got underway. So the conversation was kind of continuing. She got in her car, she placed the call, and then she decided, okay, I'm going to drive now. And she had it on her hands-free system on board her computer. I have to admit, I'm a Luddite. I don't even have one of those clippy things to hold my phone. If I do what she does, place the call and then get underway, I prop my phone up in the cup holder. Am I okay with that in your experience, Abby?
I mean, if it's in the cup holder, you can't touch it at all. If it's in a cell phone holder, there are certain manipulations that would be acceptable. But in a cup holder, you can't touch it at all.
Okay, good to know. Thank you very much for warning me about that. You mentioned certain arguments that might be made. Is this really to maybe talk down the penalty of the infraction, to get a little break from the court, or not to be dinged for the court costs? Is that why? No. The argument is really to be acquitted from the infraction and not to have the fine and or the demerit points. Okay. And right now, the cell phone tickets have become so strict. The fine is $500 and 5 points. And for a second offense, the fine jumps to $1,000, 5 points, and a 3-day suspension of your driver's license on the spot, and the towing and impounding of your car, all of which are at your expense, and then the walk home. Yeah, the walk of shame. Abby Levy, thanks very much for your time. My pleasure. Founder of Ticket 911. Let's get to our call. Suzanne at 514-790-0800. Tell us, Suzanne, about the ticket that you received for using your horn. Where were you? What were you driving?
Car. I have a Lincoln Nautilus, and I drive the same route often. I was getting off DeCarry South, I think it's DeCarry North. No, DeCarry South, and I got off at the Sherbrooke Street exit, just where the Shelley Barbecue is, and I turned left. I was going to go towards Westmount. So at the corner of Sherbrooke and DeCarry, there are 3 lanes, one to turn right, one to go straight, and one on the far left one is either to turn left or go straight. I never go in the far lane if I see someone has a flasher on, because it takes long. So there was one car ahead of me at the red light with no flasher on, so I pulled up behind him. As soon as the light went green, the guy put his flasher on, which made me angry. So anyways, I waited till so I honked my horn, and I waited till the cars on the middle lane passed me, and I pulled up beside the guy, and I said, "Don't you know how to use your flasher?" Anyways, I got a knock on my window for 2 cops on a bicycle, and they asked me to pull over. I pulled over, and he said, well, you're not allowed to use your horn like that, so he says, give me a minute. I gave my registration. He gave me a $187 ticket. I said, listen, this is not fair. The guy didn't signal correctly. I didn't see that, he said. And you gave an example of like road rage.
Ooh, this is a tough one, Suzanne. Now, when you used your horn, was it, as I think Russell Crowe said in that movie about road rage that was very similar to your scenario, by the way, Suzanne? I think he said there's a difference between a honk and a courtesy honk, like a little beep. Was it, little beep, wake up, pal, little beep, or was it a long, angry honk?
Well, kind of in the middle. It was like that. You're not like doing it constantly or whatever. I gave a medium honk. How's that? A
medium honk. Okay, Suzanne, I am going to take your case under consideration. Please stay on the line. Judge Trudie will render her verdict after we get a check of traffic.
Hello, Canada.
This is Bryan Adams Radio. Hosted by Bryan Adams himself.
We'll play a few of mine, a ton of my favorites, and some must-hear behind-the-scenes stories from the world of rock and roll. We're coming to get you! One thing about doing rock and roll so long is you end up meeting a lot of the people that you admire. Sometimes you even get to work with them. It's only love, and that's all.
Bryan Adams Radio. I'm coming back to you. Now available on the free iHeartRadio app.
Hey everybody, how are you tonight? Sounds great.
Where the noise stops and the conversation begins.
Welcome to the Graham Richardson Show.
It's national conversations, from major policy shifts to the fun, unexpected trends and friends everyone will be talking about. The Graham Richardson Show, today at noon, right here on CJAD 800.
Hello, Canada.
This is Bryan Adams Radio. Hosted by Bryan Adams himself.
We'll play a few of mine, a ton of my favorites, and some must-hear behind-the-scenes stories from the world of rock and roll. We're coming to get you! One thing about doing rock and roll so long is you end up meeting a lot of the people that you admire. Sometimes you even get to work with them. It's only love, and that's all.
Bryan Adams Radio. I'm coming back to you. Now available on the free iHeartRadio app.
Hey everybody, how are you tonight? Sounds great.
Traffic Court. Elias Makos considers your case on CJAD 800.
Just want to go on the record as saying I love that Sanivac commercial. Bump it. Yeah, I love that Sanivac commercial. All right, Judge Trudie, I believe, ready to pronounce judgment on Suzanne, our caller Suzanne. She's on the line. She told us the story about getting a ticket for honking her horn. Setting the scene now, Suzanne, you chose a lane where the option was to either go straight or make a turn. And when you pulled up in front of the one car in front of you, that's when the one car in front of you decided, no. I should put my signaler on?
No, the light was red. He had no signal. So because he had no signal, I chose that lane, because people do go in that lane and go straight. And as soon as the light turned green, that's when he put his flasher on to go left.
And that's when you honked?
Yes, and that's when I honked. I mean, I think bad behavior needs to be addressed, so I honked my horn. I guess the bad thing I did was pull up beside him, roll down my window and say, you should have put your flasher on before. And that's when two policemen on the bicycle knocked on my window and asked me to pull over. Now, two policemen, I'm a woman of a certain age. I'm not going to exactly be a terror threat to them. One of the guys on the bicycle should have gone after the other guy, but he didn't get a ticket because the policeman said, well, I didn't see that. Well, if he would have stopped him and talked to him, I'm going to pay the ticket, but I don't consider it to be road rage. Perhaps I shouldn't have rolled down my window, whatever, but I don't think it's fair the other guy didn't get a ticket.
Suzanne, the actual offense for which you were ticketed, how was it worded?
It's worded exactly for honking my horn.
Okay. So, Suzanne, I sympathize with you. I've been caught in exactly the same situation. I may have honked myself because I do find it frustrating that people only wake up and put their ticker on, their signal on, when they realize that they're inconveniencing other people who've pulled up behind them. I absolutely sympathize with you, but you are guilty.
Guilty.
You are guilty.
Guilty.
Because you were not honking to alert someone to a dangerous situation. You were honking to express your frustration with that person's violation, and that's not your role. Your role as a fellow driver is not to use your horn to express your anger at his bad behavior. As much as I sympathize with you, I'm so sorry, Suzanne, but I think the $187 ticket is justified, unfortunately.
Okay. I'm paying it anyway. So.
Yeah, I understand.
Thanks for listening.
You were a great sport to call and share it with us, Suzanne, and I thank you very, very much. Yeah, I think she's guilty. We're supposed to use our horns when the situation is serious danger. So, yeah, guilty. This texter is harsh. Oh, this texter is really... She definitely deserves the ticket plus $50 for being a Karen. I don't know. Yeah, that's harsh. Because don't we get frustrated when people don't use their signals properly? I don't think it's being a Karen to expect other motorists to be courteous and to follow the rules of the road by using their indicators. Let's hear from Eileen. She got a ticket for crossing a white line. Good morning, Eileen. Set the scene for us.
Okay. Trudie, hi. What happened was my son was on a 12-hour night shift at work. And in the morning, he says to me, Mom, he had a huge toothache. So he had to get to a dentist. So, of course, I was nervous, and I didn't want him to drive because he was tired. So anyways, I said to him, okay, hop in my car, and away we go. Well, I went on the Trans-Canada, right? The 401. And I have traveled that route 1,000 times, but I never saw the straight white line at sources. But they put it in because they had construction there. So here I am. Nobody is around us. Not one car, not one worker. And so I decided to pull out to the outer lane so that I could get out. Except for a police car. So, of course, right away he flashed his light, and I knew it was for me because there was nobody else around. I pulled aside. He walked up to me, and he said, "Lady, you went over a white line, a straight line." So I said, "You know what? I didn't even notice." Of course, I was still, nervous about my child. Okay, fine. He says, "Well, I'll have to give you a ticket." So I said, well, okay, I traveled this route so many times and I never saw that this was a straight line. So he said, okay, but you still get the ticket. I said, okay. I gave him my license, but in my nervousness, I gave him a license that has expired. But I had the new one in my purse. So anyways, he went back to the car, he comes back, and I said, officer, I have the new one, so I'm okay with that. He says, I know. And he says, I said to him, I've never gotten, in 50 years of driving, I have never gotten a ticket. So he says to me, well, you must be a pretty good driver. So I said, well, obviously I wasn't this time. So I said, and it was a hefty fine, because it's a highway. It's counted as highway. So I think it was about $300-something.
Oh.
Yeah. So anyways, he says, and then I realized, well, if he's fining me so much money, I said, officer, am I losing any points? And so he said, yes, lady, you are. You'll be losing 3 points off your status. So I said to him, well, now I'm really angry, not at you, but at myself, because I just broke my perfect record. So he smiled at me and he says, really, I feel bad that I have to give you the ticket, but I have to give it to you. I said, don't worry about it. It will be taken care of. But the 3 points hurt me, Trudie. It hurt me more than paying the money.
I hear you, Eileen. I understand that. Especially if you're a consistently good driver, sometimes your insurance company might take note if you've lost a lot of demerits. So I understand completely. So you ended up paying the fine then?
Oh, yes, definitely. I knew that it was definitely my fault. But with being so uptight about the situation, about my, my child, and so on, and I and there was nothing around me. So it wasn't as if I was creating a danger, but just the same, the law is the law.
Yeah.
And you know what? Nowadays, a lot of people do not understand this, and they come up with all kinds of excuses. And then we have people dying, right?
Yeah, you're right, Eileen. And I do think that I'm happy to hear that you were, despite the nervousness, because it's nerve-wracking to be pulled over. I've had that experience. It is nerve-wracking. That you were able to share some good humor with the cop, because I'm sure that those people on traffic patrol get just a face full of attitude most of the time when they have people pulled over. So you might have made that cop's day, actually.
You know what? He was a gentleman. He handled himself very professionally. And as I say, I had no ground to stand on because I was the one who was at fault.
Yeah. Yeah. And you had the grace to admit it, Eileen. Thank you very much for your call and for sharing your story. You did the right thing. It's too bad you got dinged.
Yeah.
But you did the right thing and with humor, Eileen. Thank you very much.
Okay, bye-bye.
Appreciate it very much.
Guilty.
Yeah, she was guilty, but she stepped up and admitted it. And I think cops appreciate that when you step up and admit it. All right. I will step down off the bench now. When we come back after the 11 o'clock news, we are hoping to, yes, I'm getting the thumbs up from Maxime. It's been confirmed we will be speaking to a reporter about the imminent opening ceremony for the Gordie Howe Bridge. It's supposed to start pretty soon now. Stay tuned.
Hello, Canada.
This is Bryan Adams Radio. Hosted by Bryan Adams himself.
We'll play a few of mine, a ton of my favorites, and some must-hear behind-the-scenes stories from the world of rock and roll. One thing about doing rock and roll so long is you end up meeting a lot of the people that you admire. Sometimes you even get to work with them.
It's only love, and that's all. Bryan Adams Radio. I'm coming back to you. Now available on the free iHeartRadio app. Everybody